So very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. I'm back after a little international break. I hope you've all had a good couple of weeks and enjoyed the game on Saturday. Probably none of us enjoyed the game on Saturday, did we? It was disastrous, to say the least. There we were after just before the international break, all filling our boots, thinking that our season was going to get off to finally get off to a good start by beating Ipswich 4-1. And then the international break comes along, and we're away to Spurs, and we get thumped. Going to talk about the game a little bit later on, of course, like I always do. But I'm going to go through quite a number of things that have been happening over the past week or so. So I'm going to go through some of the more salient things as well. If you're new to the channel, your first time on the West Ham Voice, and I won't ever say if you like the content, because when we lose, you can't like what we're going to talk about. So if you appreciate the content and you're new to the channel, please do become a subscriber of the channel. And whether you're new or existing, do hit that like button to appreciate the content of the show. But before I get off to anything, I've got to say hello to a few people. There was Darren and his boy James, who I saw at the ground. Obviously, Cy and Jack and Leslie, who I was talking to down at the front of the terraces on Saturday, and all the others I say hello to, but my memory doesn't serve me well, so my apologies for not remembering your names. But a special mention to Bomber, who I was standing next to in the first half, who went off and bought some chicken nuggets or whatever it was he was eating, and he came back down about a couple of minutes later. We scored, and there was a whole pile of fans just going in the aisle, just sort of like everyone on top of each other. And I thought, well, the next minute I'm going to have Bomber's chicken pieces all over me. But he held on to them and he ate them all. So well done to you, Bomber. I hope you're well. And thank you for saying hi as well. So let's go into the chat and let's see who we have in the chat tonight. As usual, go all the way to the top. Good evening to you, usual. Good evening to you, Aaron. Yep, said it 3 hours early and I was on time for a change. Imagine that. So you're wrong there, Danny boy. Toha, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Mr. Williams, as I've just mentioned to you, Paul, Wiggy doesn't do these types of shows. He only gets involved in the ones that, he gets the limelight in, like the post-match reviews. I hope you're well, Paul. Anthony, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Who else we've got? Good evening to you, Michael. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining as well. Toha, a classic cowbeller indeed. I was listening to Dark. Oh, you're talking about mute. See, that's what happens when I just put up normal comments. I don't know what you're all talking about. Never talk about the football, but that's okay. Good evening to you, Graham. I hope you're well. Today we're getting our first snow of the season, but that's still not as depressing as watching our club beginning its yearly dive into disaster. It's not great, is it? And we'll talk about, and I'll ask your opinions later on what you think of Lopetegui. So hold on to those comments for now. Matt, good evening. I had to take a lot of stick today at work. Yeah, well, I guess, Spurs fans, winning their cup final, a cock a hoop, aren't they? Back him, then we'll continue to struggle. Jack, good evening to you. Daniela, good evening. Not good at the office. We're doing well in the first half, and then the tactics changed, and we had a mad 15 minutes, but the need to give it time for the manager and new players. How much time do we need to give, though? This is the issue. Matt, in my opinion, Lopetegui still has Newcastle to try and improve our situation. However, seems unlikely due to Kudus out, and we can't play as a team at the moment. Ipswich is Ipswich. Nothing special. Got to do better. Yeah, look, when we beat Ipswich, I said we can only play. We can only try and beat who we're up against, and thank goodness that we did beat them. Imagine if we hadn't done that. But yeah, bit premature celebrating the start of our season, I guess, or the season going well. Matt, question: does Tim have any control or say, or does Sullivan is always going to have the final say? Reason why I'm asking is because wasn't the point of Tim was to take away the responsibility from Sully? Yes, it was. You're absolutely correct. But I think we need to sort of understand. We need to be a little bit careful what happens at a football club. The technical director is brought in to look at players, to look at the structure of the way that the football team is being run, to bring in a coach, head coach, etc., and all that. But people above will always have final say, whether it's at West Ham or any other club. A bit like Monchi at Aston Villa. He will recommend, bringing in Unai Emery. He will recommend players to be bought, etc. It's still got to be signed off by the club, by the directors. So I'm guessing it's not too dissimilar at West Ham to any other club. But I get your point. How much control does Sullivan's have? Does Steidten have? I think Steidten has been given a lot of control. Let's not forget what happened at the beginning of the season, during transfer window when he was out in Brazil for quite a lengthy amount of time trying to do deals for players. If Sullivan didn't want him to do that, he would have told him not to bother. And some of the other players that he brought in, like Fullkrug and players like that, they were clearly Steidten interactions as well. And this whole thing about Lopetegui, that it wasn't Steidten didn't want Lopetegui and was recommending other managers, etc., other coaches. I'm going to take that with a little bit of pinch of salt, to be quite honest with you, because we've since heard that not only did Sullivan interview Lopetegui, but all the other directors were involved as well, Kretinsky, etc. So everybody had a say. Everybody met Lopetegui, and they made a unanimous decision to bring him in. So let's not get too carried away that it's only Sullivan. The board, yes, Sullivan has got he's got the bigger share, and he could sort of outvote everybody. But when it came to Lopetegui, he was interviewed by the board, and everyone made a collective decision to bring him in. Now, it could have worked. What if it was working? We wouldn't be having these conversations now, would we? Colin, good evening to you. Loppy must go now to save our season. It's only going to get worse, ladies and gents. I kind of get that. But at the same time, I'm reminding myself we're only 8 games into the season. It's not great. Absolutely not great. And when I did my review on Saturday with Wiggy, and then I did my reflection on Sunday, I kind of talked about, the football. It's changed a little bit, but not enough. It's not consistent enough. So I'm in two minds. I don't want to say. I mean, let's say, for argument's sake, we got rid of him tomorrow, and we bring in yet another coach, and he doesn't do well for 8 or 10 games. Are we then going to get rid of him too, and then get someone else in, and he doesn't do well? And are we going to get rid of it? Do you see what I mean? You see where I'm going? So that's why I'm in two minds about this. I think, yes, it's not great, but at the same time, it's quite early in the season to make knee-jerk decisions about getting rid of him. Good evening. Daniela. Anthony Laurie, yes, Somerville gets game time. Also, Paqueta needs to start delivering. But as good as Kudus thinks he is at times, he thinks he can do it all by himself. This has to stop. We are a team. It's a good point. It's an interesting point. We'll talk about Kudus in a minute. Good morning to you, Tony. I hope you're well, mate. Matt, question. If we was in Europe, do you think we would lose against smaller opposition playing this way? Do you think still, even playing badly, the team will still get a result? Well, we're not playing well, and we're not getting results either. If we were in Europe, it would just add pressure. But ironically, but this is not what you want to hear, if we were in Europe, the style of football that we're playing will probably be okay. It will probably do quite well with the kind of style of football that Lopetegui seems to want us to play, but it's just not working in the Premier League. And I'm going to talk about, formations and tactics, etc., a little bit later on. Toha, letting Freddie Potts go out on loan was and continues to be an error of judgment. Going to talk about young Freddie later on. Good evening to you, Paul. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Howard, good evening, mate. Togs, he's saying hello to everyone. Good evening, Howard. Would you prefer Tuchel for West Ham or England? Sorry if I misspelled his name. Tuchel, I wouldn't have minded him for West Ham United, to be quite honest with you. I remember when he left Chelsea, a lot of fans were going, we don't want him. I don't know why. I think he's actually going to do rather well at England, to be quite honest with you. Good evening to you, Darren. How are you? I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Flameur. How are you? Good evening, Dean. Looking forward to the next international break, so at least we'll have a happy weekend. Good evening, Gerard. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Lee, how are you? We are massive over London Sea. I love your enthusiasm, mate. Kieran, how are you, mate? I saw you over with Wiggy, but you were too far away to say hello. Every game, we come out second half, championship team for 10 minutes. We were awful, weren't we, the second half? Jerry, good evening, mate. How are you? Gullispera to you, Sarif. How are you, mate? It was a wonderful holiday. Thank you very much. It was difficult to come back. Darren, good evening, mate. How are you? John, good evening. We are Toilet. Prabit, good evening, mates. How are you? I hope you're well. Mr. Hallett, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you? Matt, still sorry for my rant yesterday, but thank you for replying. I appreciate it. You go ahead and rant, mate. You know, you've all got the right to have your the one thing I never do is I may not agree with everything that people say, but I never stop you from having a rant. So you go ahead, mate. You're absolutely welcome. Matt, evening. Can we sack the manager? The midfield needs sorting. Maybe we should sack the midfield and let the manager sort the rest of the team out. How about that? Ray, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Mark, how are you, mate? The second half versus Spurs, one of the worst I've seen from us in many a year. I totally agree. Obsidian, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I see Sully is admitting Loppy is a turkey and giving him the chop at Christmas. Trini, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Colin, good evening to you. I have a very bad day today. I hear Loppy is pleading with Sullivan to give him until the end of the season. Yes, we said that. Judge me at the end of the season. End of the season might be a little bit too far away for him to be judged. Maybe I think, I did say a few weeks ago, I'll give him to the end of October. It's now coming to the end of October, and I'm a little bit hesitant now because I'm kind of like dug my own grave here. Now I'm going to say give him a little bit longer. The reason why I said give him until, the end of October is because I thought, well, we'll smash Ipswich. We'll probably get a result against Spurs. We got a very poor Man United at home, so we're going to be all right, aren't we? Now I'm not too sure. Matt, HT Do versus United. HT Do versus United. Played 56, won 9, drawn 13, lost 34. Unbeaten at home against United for the last two seasons, but lose 2-1 back in 2021 from goals from Benrahma, Ronaldo and Lingard. Thank you for that bit of history. Tony, it's not all bad, guys. Duran didn't score. Wayne Rooney will soon get sacked, and he can fight for the West Ham job with Southgate. I saw the Southgate comment. It's lazy journalism. Well, until it becomes fact. John, you know what's the biggest problem with uncontrollable diarrhea? A finite supply of toilet paper. We're running out fast. The toilets get blocked. I'm sure I'm sort of with your analogies on toilets, but there you go, mate. Hammer time. Good evening to you. Look crap from day one of Lopetegui taking over and have not got any better. You see, this is where I'm a little bit sort of like, because I keep saying it. I keep saying I see pockets of better play, but it's only pockets. It's small, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 5 minutes there, etc. But we're not seeing a consistency. I think the only time it came together was against Ipswich. But then, as you all say, it was only Ipswich. Stephen, there has been no improvement at all, in my opinion. Anthony, what was the point, Tim, in the tunnel talking to the players every home game before kickoff? That's interesting. I know West Ham Football on Twitter put that photo up about Lopetegui talking to, but this is what, sorry, not Lopetegui, Steidten, but this is what Steidten has done at every club. He did that at Werder Bremen, he did that at Leverkusen, and he's doing that at West Ham. So is it a problem? I don't know. Is it a problem that Steidten is talking to is close to the players? You look at a lot of the photos of when he was at previous the German clubs. You'll see an awful lot of photos with Steidten with the players. Steidten used to sit on the bench at other clubs as well. So I don't know. You tell me. Is it an issue? Is it a problem? Is he overstepping the mark? Is it because we're not acclimatized, used to seeing a technical director, sporting director being that close to the players? I don't know. You tell me, because I don't know if it's a problem or not. To be really honest with you, Robert, we needed new players just to stand still. Interesting point. Black Country. Good evening, mate. It's Sullivan. He's got history. Is it just Sullivan though? I mean, I'm not trying to protect Sullivan, but is it? Obsidian. This is the opposite of improvement. Bowen, Kudus, Alvarez, even Areola looking worse under this manager. I actually agree. I actually think Bowen and Kudus, are not doing half as well as they should be at the moment. Alvarez doesn't look great. Areola, I talked about Areola and the coaching, the goalkeeping coaching. What's going on there? Because Areola's regressing into with the greatest of respect, is regressing into a Fabianski. Fabianski can't distribute the ball. Fabianski can't control his 18-yard box. Is it too much of a coincidence that Areola's going down the same route? Good evening to you, Melissa. How are you? When did Kudus tell you he can do it all by himself? Good point. I think the point is, it looks as if Kudus is trying too hard at the moment. And ironically, he's doing exactly the same for the Ghanaian team. He's trying too hard. And by the fact that he's trying too hard, he's beginning to sort of not let the team down, but he's not playing as well fluidly as we know he can. Gennaro, good evening to you, mate. I'm very well. I hope you are too. Jerry, disappointed not to see our style of play emerge yet. Loppy should be given until the end of this year. Why? Because that's what we do. What have you forgot? You forgot that I was on tonight. Oh dear. Good evening to you, Christine. How are you? I hope you're well. Chrissy? Loppy did not buy this midfield. There are answers. If he cannot see them, then he has to be moved on. But the problems look deeper to me. Well, that's an interesting point you were raising there, Chrissy, that Lopetegui didn't buy this midfield. Yet, we've got Soler in there. We've got Somerville in there. We've got Rodriguez in there. That's 3 players brought in who are midfielders. Are you maybe suggesting that there's a discourse between who Steidten has brought in and what Lopetegui wanted? I mean, it's an interesting point if that's what you're alluding to, because I remember praising Lopetegui and Monchi, who's the technical director at Aston Villa. Why Monchi? Because Monchi was the technical director at Seville when Lopetegui was manager there or head coach there. And between them, they actually brought in, I can't remember what the number was. I did it in the transfer window. They brought in something like 20 odd players and got rid of something like 17 players when Lopetegui took over Seville, and they did exceptionally well. So maybe there's a misunderstanding between what Steidten is bringing in and what Lopetegui needs. Maybe. I don't know. But having said that, a bit similar to signing Lopetegui on, that it went through the board, I would imagine that the players that Steidten has been bringing in must have been discussed with Lopetegui, and Lopetegui gave his approval. I would imagine that would be the case. Sharky, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I enjoyed it very much. That was terrible on Saturday, but I think Lopetegui should get more time. Daniel, good evening, mate. I think we need to park the bus on tactics and play as a team in the best positions for the players first and foremost. Good point, Nat. Hammer time. Been zero improvement. If anything, we've gone backwards. Hammerette, I have a horrible feeling we're going to be seeing transfer requests handed in. Far too much unrest going on behind the scenes. We believe there is. We don't know that there is a lot of unrest. Certainly, I've been saying it for some weeks now. Kudus is not himself. And it culminated in what happened on Saturday. The frustration got the better of him. But I don't know. Certainly, I agree. Lopetegui is not making the best use of the players he's got available to him. Is there unrest, though? Let's not get into that theorizing that we think we know what's going on when we don't always really know. Shaz, technically, he's been very poor. How can you play 4-5-1 and still get played through easily? Because we haven't been playing 4-5-1. Ironically, it's been a 4-1-4-1, where that means Rodriguez is the man who's meant to be shielding the back four, but that is definitely not working. Richard, good evening to you. There still isn't a manager or coach that is available and could turn us around. Only buying out contracts is going to improve us. I don't know. Edin Terzic rings a massive bell for me. And if we are going to get rid of Lopetegui, for me, he'd be the first one on the list. If you remember Terzic, he took Borussia Dortmund to the final of the Champions League last season, only losing to Real Madrid. And he is, of course, ex-West Ham. He was one of the coaches under Slaven Bilic several years ago. Good evening to you, John. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Hammerit, I've not seen any news today has been run ragged at work. What have I missed them, peeps? Nothing at all, apart from what everything is being discussed at the moment. Obsidian, he didn't buy the midfield, but he decides to drop Alvarez, play Souček, play Kudus out position, not play Somerville. Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's something going on. I'll take that back. I mentioned a moment ago only Kudus seems out of sorts. Alvarez, I don't know what the reason is why he's been dropped all of a sudden. Playing Souček. Souček is the type of player, whether we like it or not, who ends up proving that you need him more in the team, that you need him out of the team, ironically. Kudus out of position, totally agree. Somerville not being played, totally agree. Oliver, the problem with the club is the disconnect between Sullivan, Brady, and Steidten. You employ a director of football to change the very ethos of the club, and yet the owners can't help but interfere. This is the thing. I'm not challenging you. I'm actually trying to get to grips with myself. You know, what is Sullivan doing that's stopping Steidten from doing his job? You know, as I mentioned a moment ago, when Lopetegui was brought in, he was interviewed by all the directors, you know, Kretinsky, etc., as well as Sullivan. It was a unanimous decision to bring Lopetegui in. Steidten is being given carte blanche to go and buy players in the transfer window. Like I said, he was out in Brazil looking for players there, and he's kind of like being unchallenged. The bit I'm worried about is of what I've just mentioned. Are the players that Steidten brought in not the kind of players that Lopetegui needs? Maybe that's the case. If that's the case, there's a discourse between manager or coach, should I say, and technical director. Good evening, Ronnie. I hope you're well, mate. I said at the start of the season, 9 points out of the first 9 is okay, not great. 18 out of 9 is great. And 27 out of 9 is fabulous. If we lose to Man United, I'm Loppy out. I didn't see you at the weekend. I'm sure you were there. Colin, good evening, Hammerette. Hope you had a nice day. Everyone saying hello to everyone. Oliver, Amorim was Steidten's pick. I'm going to be really, really honest. I'm not saying that you're wrong. But Amorim was interviewed, but he wasn't selected. Now, my understanding is, and I've said this before several times, is Amorim didn't want the setup that Sullivan had sorted out. So basically, a year before, Sullivan brought in a technical director because we know we needed that, whatever he is, technical sporting director, we know we needed that. And that was, even despite David Moyes not wanting that. But Sullivan knew going forward it was the right thing to do for the club. When Amorim came in, he didn't want a technical director telling him who to buy, etc., etc. He actually wanted a completely different setup. So I'm not surprised that Amorim didn't actually come in, you know, because it would have meant Sullivan would have had to get rid of Steidten. Now, let's say Amorim came in and that didn't work. Then what? Who would be at fault then? Sullivan again, because he would have picked him. He was overruled instead, and we got a Spanish Moyes who was on no one's radar. Now Amorim is being linked with Man City as a potential Pep replacement. He may well be. He may well be. But my understanding of that story is what I've just said, that Amorim didn't want to come in and have a technical director alongside him. So what are you going to do? You know, you get a technical director in because you know it's the right thing to do for the club. And then you get a manager that comes in and says, great, I'll manage you, but I don't want to have a technical director next to me. So, you know, you're between a rock and a hard place. Ray, J-Lo admitted post-Spurs game that translation is a problem. How can we believe the statement about him coming across well in the interview? Yeah, I think people have interpreted translation as two things. Is it him speaking, or is it him getting people to understand the tactics that he wants? You know, maybe people. I think he's got coaches alongside him, so I don't think it's the verbal translation. I think he's got coaches alongside him who can speak for him if need be, if he's not clear. But he is difficult to understand in interviews, isn't he? West Ham fan, good evening to you. Thank you for joining, Dean. I've read and heard lots about the problems on the field this weekend. Nobody has spoken about the massive issue of continually playing a midfielder who can't pass or carry the ball effectively. You are talking, I'm guessing, about Paqueta. Mike, is it the end of the season yet? Who else have we got? Andrew. I just cannot believe Lopetegui watched all the games last season and continues to play Antonio and Souček in our starting 11. It's a dereliction of duty. Ironically, I don't blame Souček for our defeat. I certainly don't think Antonio has played well, but I hold Paqueta much more accountable for some of our defeats than Souček. It's not Souček who's giving the ball to the opposition and then the opposition going and scoring goals. I'm afraid that's Paqueta. Chrissy, if Lopi had started with Kudus more centrally, we would never have got into a mess. Saying that, we don't beat top 6 sides anyway. I agree with that. You know, I think it's a real massive disappointment that we're seeing Kudus playing out left. And that's probably part of the reason why he looks so frustrated. Mercedes, that result ruined my Saturday. And when I heard that Lopetegui interview afterwards, I felt more incensed. Richard, if he stays and nothing changes, which my opinion is likely, we will look foolish. If he goes, we still look foolish. With the careful what you wish for brigade. Can't win, can we? Either way. Look, I think he's going to be, I mean, he's been given the seal of approval by the board. You know, he's been told they're not going to make a knee-jerk decision. And they never do they, with managers, even when it was bad. Who remembers Avram Grant? You know, he didn't get sacked, did he, until he took us down. And I think he will get given more time. Whether we think that's right or wrong is another matter. But I think he'll be given a bit more time. Who else have we got here? Joe, good evening to you. You can't legislate for losing the ball in critical areas and the attack keeps breaking down. Paqueta has other issues on his mind and it's affecting his performance. Take him out of the limelight. I said this before the international break. If that's affecting his game so much, take him out of the limelight. Give him 20 minutes at the end of the game rather than, or give him half an hour or whatever, rather than coming on fucking up, which he is doing regularly. And we're conceding goals left, right, and centre, unfortunately, primarily because of him. You're right. Kudus, has lost the ball quite a few times as well. Bowen even lost the ball several times on Saturday too. Foxes, stick Kudus in the middle and make him captain. Not sure about making him captain, especially with the what happened at the weekend, but certainly either in the middle or put him back out on the right. Vinay, I can only watch the early Amazon games in Sweden. I've only seen the Chelsea and Spurs game. It's horrific. Do you get all the games on Amazon? I don't know. I don't know. Hammerit. The result was made worse by the fact that we were the earliest match of the weekend. Could we at least had a decent weekend and played tonight? Black Country. Kudus could be banned for 6 games. It's down to the FA, apparently. It absolutely is. Sarif, in my opinion, I think Lopi is done. Don't think he has any managerial nous, which is a major worry. I think we're in for a long relegation battle if he remains in the job. Well, we're going to see what happens over the coming weeks because I do not think we're going to get rid of him just yet. Andrew Somerville is turning into the new Ben Rama. Lopetegui doesn't seem to rate him. That's not Somerville's fault. I think he needs a run of games, to be honest with you, and see what he's capable of doing. Sullivan, are you cheaper than the other guy? J-Lo's... fantastic, you got the job. Just don't. I know that's what we like to think, Ray, but I'm not. I don't think it's just about the money. In all honesty, let's not forget. Going back to that point, it's not, because if we do sack, if he does get sacked, it's not just Lopetegui that gets sacked. It's his whole entourage. It's all the coaches that he's been brought in. So it's going to cost Sullivan a hell of a lot more money to get rid of all him and the coaches, pay them all off for the 2-year contracts that they've all signed, etc. That'd be a hefty wage. So that's why I don't think it's only just about the money. John, would like to see Paqueta dropped. Too much going on personally affecting his game. I agree. Graham, Paqueta is broken and should be dropped immediately. Play Somerville on the left and Kudus behind the strikers, plus Bowen, who is a terrible captain up front, and Antonio wide right. Vinay, Lopi needs to go. I saw his Wolves walk out as a red flag. He's also come across a bit of a nutter on the touchline. Trini, I will never dig out a player for trying too hard, but will call out the player who does not try hard enough. That's the issue. It's a good point. CM, if they give him longer than 14 games, they're weak. Show some bollocks. But we are in a bit of a weird situation because there's no way on earth we're going to get rid of him after 8 games. There's just no way. It's not going to happen. It's not so much about saving face and trying to admitting your mistakes that shouldn't have got rid of Moyes and all that sort of stuff. I just don't think we will get rid of him after 8 games. I don't think we'll get rid of him after a dozen games. I think it will go till Christmas and see where we're at then. If it really hasn't turned around by then, if we haven't started to pick up results, I fully expect the board to let Lopetegui go. But we're not going to get a sacking now. I'd be very, very surprised if we do. Foxes, who would you rather have as captain, Kudus or Bowen? Neither. I'd give it to Kilman, to be quite honest with you. Dennis, the goalkeeping coach is a worry, especially when you consider that Loppe used to be a keeper himself. I mentioned this before, Dan. Absolutely, I think you're right. You know, Fabianski has been a great servant to West Ham, but the one thing I started to get frustrated about was his distribution, his being slow at distributing, his poor distribution, and his lack of coming off his goal line. We're seeing Areola doing exactly the same thing now. He's got slower in distributing the ball. He doesn't command his 18-yard box. He seems to stick to his goal line. I'm beginning to wonder if that's the way they're being trained. That's the way they're being coached. Hamrit, that result was on both the coach that can't see how to get his players at their best and also some players poor, frustrated, and too much stuff going on for them to focus. Good points. Di Canio, Flawless was right about Lopetegui. I'm not saying he was right just yet. Is he in tonight? What guys is he under tonight? Dean, I wanted Steidten to be given free rein this summer, but I think it can be argued that he failed miserably to address the striker and midfielder issues we all knew we faced. Well, I think he sorted out the defence, and I think he did well, ironically, even though we're still conceding a lot of goals. I like Todibo. I like Kilman. I like Wan-Bissaka. I think he absolutely did fail miserably with regards to the striker situation. I think we've got enough decent midfielders, if they're used right, to sort that out. And I'm going to come to those in a minute. George, good evening to you. I think our number one keeper has lost his confidence. That is good shout. That's a good shout. Mark, this is the time the big characters in the team need to step up. My worry is we don't seem to have many. We've got a lot of characters, but you're absolutely right. They're definitely not stepping up. Daniela, the Spurs players were getting away with 50-50 challenges. Our players are getting picked and even booked. That was annoying. The players you can see on the TV. So, yeah, that's been happening. We don't play dirty enough, do we? And what I mean by that is it's not so much being nasty to the opposition, but those niggly little fouls that you see the likes of Spurs and the Liverpools and other teams get away with on a regular basis. We don't do that for some reason. Andrew, the next two games are going to be tough. I genuinely can't see us picking up any points. Could be embedded in the bottom three. Good evening to you, WHK. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, David. How are you? Bungs, bring in Noble as manager. He will sort them out. He absolutely won't. I love to think, it's a fairy tale to bring in Noble, West Ham through and through and all that sort of stuff. But no, I'm afraid I don't think that would actually work, to be quite honest with you. Who else have we got here? Andrew, doesn't make sense because Amorim was apparently Steidten's choice. That's what you're being told. Steidten certainly picked him out and brought him for an interview. There's no doubt about that. But the story is that Amorim didn't want to work alongside a technical director. Colin, still we need points. Loppe needs to learn to win ugly. Might not be pretty football, but I do not think he knows how to do that. What do you think of Thomas Frank? I think he's a wonderful manager. And I think if Thomas Frank was available, he would be ideal for West Ham United. It would be a step up for him. It will be good for West Ham. It will make us play a different style of football. Yeah, why not? But yeah, at the moment, he's in contract. I don't know when his contract runs out, to be honest. Chrissy, at least Alvarez and Soler put the boat in. Would you rather Rodriguez and Souček just to let them run past? Rodriguez is a right back slide tackle in him, and that's it. No, I don't disagree. I want to see more of Soler. I don't know why Alvarez is not starting. Yes, absolutely. If I was given a choice of two central midfielders, I'd pick Alvarez and Soler. Absolutely. Good evening to you, Stan. I hope you're well. James, I heard when Amorim met Sullivan, the meeting didn't go well. Absolutely, it didn't. Apparently, they didn't agree on quite a few things. Rayleigh, good evening to you. How can we score without a top striker? Well, we did really well last season. And that's the irony. Last season, we didn't, Antonio was out for most of the season. Bowen was playing up front for most of the season. Kudus was playing out right. And we scored a hatful of goals between those two without a striker. We need that to come back. Philip, all I know is me personally, I'm not panicking. Early day crap performances, but still think it'll be okay in the end. half of my brain is saying the same thing, Philip. The other half is going, should I start panicking yet? Robert, sorry to say, Antonio was at fault for their second goal. I think you look at some of the games, I think Paqueta gave the ball away and they scored out of that one. You know, Antonio's, you've just said, you know, some of the goals, maybe Areola should have been in a better position to save them. Brad, good evening to you. This is a serious comment. I'm not one for sacking managers at a drop of the hat, but I'm genuinely cannot understand a word the man says in interviews. So how the hell can foreign players understand him? Get that. But as I said earlier in the show, he does have coaches who will, you know, help him with the communication. Bit like he's got a translator sitting next to him when he's doing interviews as well. James, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I heard when Sullivan met Amorim, the meeting didn't go well, so he was never going to come to West Ham, even though he was first choice. Who's first choice, though? You know, yes, I don't disagree that Steidten brought him in to be interviewed. Don't disagree with that at all. Anthony, hello, mate. I understand we have 9 new players and need time to gel, but why stick the old guard, Antonio, Souček, Areola, Paqueta, who is not in the right frame of mind, drop them all? I don't disagree with most of that. Stan. Get Stan's comment up. Bowen looked totally out of sorts. Captaincy is a burden to him. I am beginning to agree with that. I said at the beginning of the season that's not going to be a problem. He's fine. He'll be all right. But I wonder if it is beginning to take its toll a little bit. He needs to sort of man up in a way in terms of being a captain on the pitch, and he also needs to make sure he comes for interviews, post-match interviews that he doesn't do a lot of now. Irony, he used to before he was captain. Haven't seen him doing a lot of that this time round. Victor, forgive me if I can't put up every comment. I do try and get through as many as I can. Victor, our midfield setup is all wrong. No pace. Rodriguez and Souček can't play together. Don't disagree with that. Trini, why are we even extending Kudus' ban? I don't even think it was a red. It definitely was, I'm afraid, mate. Daniel, still, didn't Lopetegui disagree with KPI? And perhaps that's why he's changing so much on a regular basis with no repercussions on results short term. What KPI? There aren't any KPIs. I know there was another rumor about all these KPIs being put in for Moyes. Am I understanding what you're asking? Has he been set? Still, didn't Lopetegui disagree with KPI? That's why he's changed it. I don't know. You're going to have to explain to me. Maybe I'm going off on a different tangent, so you're going to have to explain that point to me. Anthony, put Fabianski, Alvarez, Guilherme, and Soler in. Lopetegui is just a sidestep on Moyes. Fabianski, I really don't think he's better than Areola, mate. Alvarez, agree. Guilherme, we don't know what he's capable of. Soler, I agree as well. Chrissy, play Paqueta as a support striker in a 4-4-1-1. Give him total freedom. If he loses it up there, there's the insurance. Keep fullbacks as proper defenders. No more of this win-back nonsense. He is being played as at the one behind the striker at the moment, Chrissy, and he's still losing it, unfortunately. But I do agree with you about the 2 fullbacks, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. DiCanio, amazes me how much of our fans think Scarfman walks on water. He's accountable for this mess just as much. Good point. Don't disagree with that as well. Jerry, if Paqueta doesn't get dropped, he should play as a false 9. It would enable us to sort out a sounder, something else. Dean, my logic on Souček is that we have to effectively surrender the midfield battle as we can't play through the lines and we end up playing long balls or losing it due to being overrun. I don't disagree with that, but you know, I've always said that Souček is not a flair player. He's a bit of a disruptor in midfield, which seems to be why he gets chosen quite regularly. But I get you. If you're trying to play tippy-tappy football, Souček is not the player for you. I kind of agree with that. Right. Okay. Look, let me go into a bit of a roundup. And I'll do a quick roundup, then I'll come back to your comments again. So what I'd like is for you to start to talk to me about the points I've got up. So some comments on this. We still got no solid Fullkrug update. We've heard a lot of rumors about what may or may not be happening with Fullkrug, and they're conflicting stories, to be quite honest with you. We were told in the last international break, not the one just gone, but the one before that he was going to be out just for a few weeks and he'd be ready for just after the next international break, i.e. for the game against Spurs, but he was nowhere to be seen. And now we're told, well, of course, he's only just come back from injury and he's not match fit, so it's going to take a few weeks for that. Now, Now it's being suggested he's going to be out for even longer and he might even need an operation. Now, that is the bit I don't agree with on his Achilles tendon, because if he needed an operation, he would have had it right at the start when he first got injured. I don't think we would have waited 4 weeks and now turn around and go, he's now got to have an operation, because if that's the case, he'll be out for almost the rest of the season. So I think by process of elimination, I think Fullkrug is probably just not match fit and should be back within the next few weeks. Now, if we don't see him in the next couple of games, maybe not Man United, but maybe the one after. What's the one after? Is that Forest? I think it is. Then I'll start to worry that it could be even longer term. What else have we got? Well, Lucas Paqueta. He's been in the limelight for a lot of stuff off the pitch as much as on the pitch. After yet another poor performance for his national team during the international break, he picked up another yellow card, and that meant he missed the game against Peru last week because of suspension. In a completely different case to the one he's being charged with by the FA, he was then summoned to testify in a hearing in Brazil on game manipulation and sport betting. And that hearing is going to be at the end of October. We thought that he was going to have to fly out to attend in person, but now we understand he can do it by video conference. And so he's got that. Now, that's got nothing to do with the with what he's been the cases against him by the FA. And then last week he issued a statement, strongly criticizing the FA about false and misleading reports that he's been accused of. The player has called on the FA to investigate who is leaking all the comments that are coming out, and he's insisting that the stories being put in the public domain might threaten to undermine his chances of a fair process. Is he now running a little bit scared, or does he have a point there? Because we know there's a lot of stuff that's out there in the news. And we know it can only come from something like the FA, who must be leaking it to the press. Will it give him an unfair hearing? I don't know. Or is he trying to cover a little bit? I don't know. Look, when these charges first came out about spot fixing, I did say to myself, I think he's a little bit guilty. Well, you're either guilty or not guilty, not a little bit guilty. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens, because he said in the statement, FA proceedings are supposed to be confidential, extremely serious to me and my family. They continue to leak and publicize inaccurate information in the press, which puts me at risk of not receiving a fair hearing. I've instructed my lawyers to write to the FA to request that they conduct a thorough investigation into how the information about the case, even if it's inaccurate, it's finding its way into the public domain. Look, what's going to happen is there's going to be a 3-man committee or 3-person committee that's going to look at the case. Are they going to get influenced by what's out in the news? I'm not so sure. They're going to look at the facts. They're not necessarily going to listen to what's out in the press, etc. So I don't know. It's interesting that Paqueta's coming out fighting on this. It's going to be interesting to see what the outcome of this is going to be as well. Right, we move on. What about Mohamed Kudus? As I've said, and we've been talking about it in the comments. I've been saying it for many weeks that his demeanor has not been right for quite a long time now. His body language is screaming that there are issues going on. His fallout with Lopetegui a few weeks ago in the game against Brentford was a warning sign. Then his outburst on the pitch in the game against Spurs kind of resulted in several weeks of sheer frustration. Now, I know it's all too easy to suggest that Kudus is unhappy because he's been asked to fill in on the left-hand side of attack. But I feel it can't be much more than that. You know, he was on fire last season. He was scoring goals for fun. He scored 18 goals. He had 7 assists throughout the whole of last season in all competitions. That was an average of being involved in 1 goal in every 2 games. He was thriving, happy. And we were talking about what a bargain he was from when we got him from Ajax. Now he's the shadow of the player he was last season. Is he just unhappy in playing on the left-hand side? We know he's not effective. We know the stats evidently demonstrate that, where so far in 10 appearances this season in all competitions, he's had only 2 goals and 1 assist. Go back to his preseason interview, I think is the interesting factor. In his preseason interview, he stated that Lopetegui was going to give him the freedom to play his best football. Basically, what we read from that was what a lot of people have been saying is it felt as if Lopetegui was telling him, you're going to play that number 10 role. You're going to play in the middle. You're going to be free to roam left, right, center, wherever, go deep, pick up the ball, carry it, etc., etc. But what he's now found is he's stuck out on the left. And it clearly, I don't know what else could be frustrating him so much. You know, we saw this at the tail end of last season when Moyes was using Kudus out on the left. And we're all like, it's not working for him. It's not working for the team. He's not as good as when he's out on the right. So I wonder if Lopetegui's doing the same thing. And that is what's caused the frustration. The system that we had last season worked in attack, where he mainly played on the right, Bowen played in the middle, and between the two of them, they notched up 38 goals and 17 assists throughout all competitions. Now, everyone's suggesting that Bowen can't play up front. Well, that's evidence that he could. 38 goals between the two of them. What did Bowen score? 20, 21 goals last season? And it clearly did work. And so I don't understand why Lopetegui is insisting on using Kudus out on the left-hand side. Now, of course, we don't have Kudus for 3 games because, unfortunately, Trini, it was an absolute nailed-on red card. He lunged for, who was it? Mickey van der Ven. And then after in the melee, he then lunged out for Paqueta. And this is why I believe that the FA are likely to look into this and they can increase his suspension from 3 games to possibly 5 or 6 because it was a separate incident. So he went for Van der Van, and that's what he got sent off for. And then he struck out at Paqueta separately. And that's what the FA may look at, which may double his suspension. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens there. Right. Other brief things. Women's team, they were back in action at the weekend and they lost 2-0 against Arsenal in the Barclays Women's League. That result leaves them rock bottom of the Women's League. No wins, 3 defeats and 2 draws so far this season. I did say that their manager, who I can't remember the name of now, she just about managed to ensure that when she was in charge of Spurs, they didn't get relegated. We almost got relegated last season. Maybe this is a season that which she's going to end up relegating West Ham. Academy news, very briefly. Well, the under-18 showed the senior team how you beat Spurs in a game because they thumped them 4-2 at the weekend. It was West Ham's first under-18s league win of the campaign with a commanding 4-2 victory at Little Heath. It was Spurs who took the lead, but West Ham responded with 4 goals of their own before half-time. West Ham's response was quite swift after their goal. They scored 4 minutes later. Aridas, Galambekis, Alicia Sawumni, Andre Dyke were all on the score sheet. For our equaliser, exciting young winger Adiel, we talked about him before, whipped in a sublime cross from the left, which was headed home by Golombekis. That's his 4th goal of the season, which levelled the score at 1-1. It was another Adiel assist on 38 minutes where Dyke headed his first of 2 goals. Then on 38 minutes, we were 3-1 up with a sweet strike by Sawumni. And then Dyke netted his 2nd of the game just before half-time. We went a player down in the second half, but despite that, we held on. Well, not held on. We were actually quite comfortable, even though Spurs got a goal back. The under-21s weren't in action. They're back in action this Friday, where they play away to Wolves. We're currently 3rd, the under-21s in Premier League 2, and we're 3rd on goal difference. We've got the same number of points as Man City and Liverpool, who are sitting just above us. Wolves are 18th in the league, and if we manage to get a handsome win, and depending on the results that go on around us, we may go back on top of that league. How about a bit of loan news? Well, the players on loan did an awful lot better than the players in our team. 8 West Ham players were on loan who were involved in a successful weekend of action. Callum Marshall and Freddie Potts both found the back of the net this weekend as 8 West Ham United players experienced an undefeated weekend of action. Marshall was on target for Huddersfield Town as they defeated Bristol Rovers 3-1 in League One. Northern Ireland international Marshall has made an impressive start to his career, his season at Huddersfield. He doubled his side's lead with a well-taken low finish just inside the box. Freddie Potts was also on the score sheet at the weekend for Portsmouth in a 2-1 win over QPR at Loftus Road. Potts levelled for Portsmouth as they came from a goal behind to secure their first championship win of the season. George Earthy continues to return from his injury, coming off the bench for Bristol City in a 2-0 win over Middlesbrough to earn their first away victory of the season. Bristol City are now 10th with 14 points. Back in League One, Gideon Kodua finally got some game time at Wycombe Wanderers, but was introduced with 10 minutes to go in their 3-1 win over Peterborough United. In Division League 2, Patrick Kelly made his first league appearance in over a month, starting in midfield for Doncaster Rovers as they earned a last-gasp win against Swindon Town to keep pace with league leaders Port Vale. Levi Lang, centre-back, was a late first-half substitute for Cheltenham Town in their win. Who did they play? Don't know. Doesn't matter. Mason Terry played 90 minutes and kept a clean sheet for Hornchurch in National League South as they drew 0-0 with Bath City. And Naif Agurd, who has a shit season at West Ham United, is having a great season in Spain and played in Real Sociedad's 1-0 win over Girona at the weekend. That is your roundup of players on loan. Right, let's go back to your chat, and then we're going to talk about the game against Spurs and what do we do with formation and how much more time does Lopetegui get as head coach of West Ham. Right, Andrew, I've been impressed with Kilman. I think he's done well, but the rest have left me underwhelmed. Rodriguez, Soler, Fullkrug, Todibo, Somerville and Guilherme are a concern and way off Premier League quality. I would disagree with you on Todibo. I think Todibo's looking really good. I don't think Somerville or Soler have had enough time. I would agree with you with Rodriguez, and we still don't know about young Guilherme, what he can offer. Michael, wouldn't like to be in a relegation battle with all the money spent and losing our best talent as well. I don't think that's going to happen. I actually really don't think it will. Stephen, it's really bad, but where do you think we go from here? I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Ralph, try Irving in the middle instead of Souček or even Potts. Why not? Why not? We don't know what could happen there. Angela, good evening to you. We have 3 subs ready to come on when we're 2-1 down, but don't make them until we're 4-1 down. That was rather odd, wasn't it? Gary, good afternoon to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Sean. How are you? I hope you're well. Andrew, Redknapp to come on with Noble for the end of the season until we find our next manager. Hopefully not Southgate. I don't know, Redknapp. How long has he been out of the game for now? I don't know. I'm not sure. CM. How can anyone say they're not worried yet? What they have seen that says Loppy knows what he's doing? Well, I'm not worried yet. I'm concerned. But I think he will get more. It's just the way the club do things. I think he will get a bit more game time. Paul, push Souček up front while Fullkrug is out to give us a focal point. I'd still rather Bowen up there, to be honest with you. Epic, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Hammer it. I would not be so anti-Loppy already if I'd seen something promising. 8 Premier League games, 2 cups, 2 breaks, and an entire pre-season, and we're looking worse than when we started. Vic, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Lopetegui can speak 5 languages. Just because his English is not great is no reason to slate him. He can communicate with all of the squad. Good point. Let's scroll down. I'm trying to get as many comments in as I can. Trini, game's gone soft, and those commenting on it, in my opinion, the ref did not think so and only changed his mind because he bottled it with VAR. The Man City game did not follow VAR advice. I'd love to agree with you, but when we saw the replay, he did. I mean, the minute you make contact with a person's face, you know you're going to get red carded. I'm not saying I didn't think it was soft, you know. And of course, the Spurs player made a meal of it and made the most of it. But the minute you touch an opposing player's face, you're done for. Andrew, We should have kept Earthy in and around the squad. I felt he had broken through last season and generated a buzz around the fan base. I think Lopetegui made a mistake loaning him out. I think Lopetegui made a mistake loaning all our best young players out. I would have kept Potts, to be quite honest with you. I thought Freddie Potts was very ready for senior football and would have been a good backup in central holding midfield. Di Canio. I see the comparisons to last season's results have ended since they don't suit the anti-Moyes agenda. Why don't they mention who we won there last season? Good point. Good point. Who else have we got here? Gary. If I can get Gary's comment up. There we go. Honestly, I would bench Paqueta and sell Kudus in January. I'd certainly bench Paqueta. Wouldn't sell Kudus just yet. I'd put Kudus back on the right and see if he can emulate the performances he put in last season. Darren. Paqueta asked for investigation 48 hours before the Tottenham game. Shows where his head was at during the game, in my opinion. Good point. Chrissy Stell. Paqueta played left on a 3 in the middle. We were 4-3-3 against Spurs. I was there. I was there too. 4-3-3, maybe look more like a 4-1-4-1. But I make you right, Chrissy. Roberts. Having God-given skills doesn't make you intelligent. FA is going to get their man. I think they might. Di Canio. Trini. Trini. Have they stopped making the comparisons? When have they stopped making the comparisons yet? The Palace win isn't looking so good now, is it? Trini, he is being played out of position. Arguably our best player, being messed around, yet Bowen does nothing and gives given game after game in his favourite position. Playing on the right still, yes, he was the bollocks. Absolutely he was. And playing Bowen up front also was the bollocks. They did well for us. Ironically, last season we didn't have a problem up front. We were scoring goals for fun. It was the defence that needed sorting out. Now we've sorted out the defence, and yet we've messed up the attack. Now we're conceding goals, and we're not scoring goals either. Ronnie, I think he feels let down on promises, and it's doing his head in. I think you might be right there. Brad, regarding Paqueta, none of us can pass comment on betting scandals, as none of us know. What we do all know is he's playing shockingly bad and should be dropped. Simple as that. Yet he is playing bad and should be dropped. Absolutely agree. Gennaro. Lopetegui just doesn't seem to learn. Pretty much playing the same team with the same results. Definitely shades of our manager. Well, here's the interesting thing. He played that team for the third time in a row. So we drew one, won one, lost one. One could argue, well, he can't play the same team now because Kudus is out. Andrew. The players are mentally weak, including the new signings. No matter who's in charge, it's made no difference last season. Arsenal 6 goals, Fulham 5, Palace 5, Liverpool 5. Yep. Trini, it's the one position he cannot play. Everyone in football knows this. I'm thinking you're talking about Kudus probably. CM, when Kudus signed, he said it in an interview. He was looking forward to playing with Paqueta. Great, but then they need to play as a team, don't they? Andrew, if things continue the way they are, I can see Kudus playing up and looking to force a move. You know what? That's quite possible. Sydney, good evening to you. Kudus lost his head. Blaming Lopetegui for his meltdown is insane. I'm not saying he's blaming him, but maybe what I'm suggesting is given that the interview that we saw Kudus do, or the interview that Kudus had pre-season, where he said Lopetegui was going to give him free rein, basically, and now Lopetegui has shoved him over to the left. I wonder if that is what's going on. Look. We don't know why Kudus has lost his head. We don't know why he's lost form for not only for West Ham, he's lost form for his national team as well. Robert, is it Brentford that's okay with axing their coaches? Can't get any worse with a new coach. They're not getting rid of Frank just yet, I don't think. Trini, if it was a red, the ref would have given it. I have a mind and read the game. I don't follow the narrative. Spud's players lashed out too. They did. And in all honesty, what actually angered Kudus was that Van der Ven grabbed him. He actually grabbed him and pulled him to him. And it was an instinctive thing for Kudus to do. But unfortunately, that wasn't seen even by VAR, but the push was. Darren, Kudus ain't happy with his form for us and Garner and playing on the left, bust up with Loppy. Think the build up from this and losing against Spurs made him snap during the game. Yeah. He's actually playing, ironically, in the centre of midfield as a number 10 for Garner. He's been given the captaincy, but that's not improved his performance at all. Hammer it. If nothing improves and the board give him till January before moving him out, then it's ridiculous. What time does that leave another coach to implement their ideas? Relegation fodder incoming. I've never seen you be this down, Hammer it. I'm quite surprised, to be quite honest with you. I think, Christmas would be the ideal time. Why? Because a new coach can come in and he can either keep the squad that he's got or make recommendations as to what he needs, what he wants in the January window in order to affect change. CM, thanks for cheering us up with the women's still. That's quite all right, mate. It's Colin. Still, my team for Saturday, considering who's available, 4-1-4-1 formation, Areola, Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Todibo, Emerson, Rodriguez as a sweeper, Somerville, Soler, Alvarez, Bowen, Antonio. I genuinely would drop Antonio, in all honesty. I really would. I'd even consider dropping Rodriguez. I'm going to come to some ideas in a minute. George, Souček, if he's used right, can definitely grab us a goal. Absolutely agree. Ray, football's a funny beast. 1 minute you're down and the next Fullkrug is scoring the winner in the FA Cup final with county Wembley. There's the spirit. Sydney. Kudus was totally unprofessional, childlike Tam. Don't disagree. Absolutely not disagreeing with that. He lost it. Absolutely. There's no excuse for a player losing it, whatever the issues are. I'm absolutely not disagreeing. I think we're trying to get into the psyche of why he's got to that point. But you're absolutely right. As a professional, he shouldn't have done what he did. Robert, any change depends on who can be the new coach. No more crap choices. What's a good choice? That we just don't know, do we? We think we know. I think Edin Terzic would be a good head coach, but I don't know if he'll do well or not, to be really honest with you. Usual. Van de Ven went down in installments. Yeah, he made the most of it. CM. I went to Millwall with Huddersfield Town. Our coach got held back, then escorted out of London. I think they're scared of us. Wow. Melissa. Gary, if we all want to say what we think, then I'll also say you wrote a whole load of nothing. Once again, thank God you're not part of who's I don't know what Gary wrote. Can't remember. I'm not going back to look at it either. My apologies. Wood. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I wonder how Gerd would have performed under Lopetegui. Was a very good player in there somewhere. I don't disagree. I thought he was going to get a new lease of life under Lopetegui, but that didn't seem to be the way. Martin, I'm trying to block the Spurs game out of my mind. Do we have to talk about it? Absolutely, we do. And bear with me. I'll get to it in a minute, Martin. Colin, still, alternative team. Areola, Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Todibo, Emerson, Somerville, Soler, Souček, Alvarez, Guilherme, Bowen. Don't mind that. Seems quite decent, that one. Let's scroll down. Trini, a push on the opponent's chest is supposed to be a red card. Van de Ven did not get red carded for his blatant push. He didn't push him. I know I'm spitting hairs here, but he grabbed him and pulled him. Didn't kind of push him. But look, I don't disagree. He antagonized Kudus. Again, I don't disagree that, Kudus shouldn't have lost his cool. But Van de Ven did initiate that, but he only got a yellow card. Alan, nothing said about Richarlison coming in from the side, trying to head back. Didn't Kudus headbutt him accidentally and sort of went back and knocked him? I thought that was the funniest part. Ronnie, if we draw with Man United, then it's 9 in 9. So my next 9 for improvement would be 11 in 9. Okay, 8 in 9 would be good. 27 in 9 would be great. Are you a mathematician, Ronnie? Mr. Steady Hands, good evening to you. The Academy of Football, we have a 20-man squad with no youngsters. Look, don't disagree with that. As I said earlier on, someone mentioned about Earthy should have been kept. I think Potts should have been kept, to be quite honest with you. Maybe even Callum Marshall, who's doing really well at Huddersfield should have been kept. Young, dynamic player, striker, could have given us an option up front. But when he got rid of all the half-decent academy players, I did get concerned a little bit. I know we've still got one or two playing for the under-21s, like Ollie Scarles, etc. But the number of young players that he sent out on loan did actually surprise me. Trudge, 2 assists and a goal versus Ipswich, another assist in this game. I think that's all he's got, isn't it? You're talking about Kudus. Philip, absolutely spot on still. I was gutted when he put Potts out on loan. He is more than ready to play that role in midfield. I'm disappointing because when we sold, what's his name? The guy that went to Southampton, I thought, okay, well, maybe he's opened up an opportunity for Potts to come in. And when then Potts went out on loan as well, I was a bit surprised. Chrissy could have played in the middle of Ajax in a 4-3-3. He was the most advanced of the three. We have to address all our problems up front. Middle defenders turn too easily. I did say, either play for me, either play Kudus as that false number 9, as a number 10, or out on the right. Absolutely don't play him out on the left. That's why we bought Somerville, so Somerville can play out on the left. Anthony, Wan-Bissaka and Emerson, it's all right pushing them up high on the wings, but how about them running back, not bloody walking? Yeah, good points. Evening, Brownie, how are you, mates? I'm very well. I've had a wonderful holiday. Thank you. Russ, Somerville needs to take this opportunity with both hands. I totally agree if he gets picked. Sean, I don't know. Where is your mind, mate? Tell us, and we'll try and work it out with you. Andrew, Daniela, I'm not Redknapp's biggest fan, but just a suggestion as a stopgap until we can identify a new manager. Even Party to come in and help Noble could be a competent combo. I don't think Noble actually wants to be manager or head coach of West Ham United, to be quite honest with you. I could be wrong. Would it really get to watch you live? Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. Peter, good to see Spurs. Was wonderful to see you. Save our concessions. Yeah, we had the bubbles, the balloons going up. Was good to see you. Thank you for saying hello, mate. Mandy, Kudus would be a fantastic striker for us. Strong, powerful, good control, and a decent shot. I don't care. So long as Kudus and Bowen play in their rightful positions, whether it's Bowen up front and Kudus on the right, or Kudus in the middle, Bowen on the right, I don't care. But that's where they should both be playing. Hammerett, not Kudus on the left is what I mean. Not only has he been stuck out on the left, he is there with a perfectly capable left-sided player sat on the bench. Imagine how that would feel. No wonder he is pissed off. Trini, Kudus was protecting himself from being violently shoved. This is a game for men, not pussies. Mate, I'm not actually disagreeing with you. I really am not. But, in today's law, the minute you put a hand on someone's face, you're done for. Dean, I'm already looking at the bottom few teams and hoping they lose or held the new regime and new beginnings it is bringing. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Old man, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It felt to me Kudus got sent off on purpose. He didn't pass the ball much, tried doing everything by himself. The big issue is Paqueta losing possession in transition. It really hurts us as wingbacks. Don't disagree. He is losing the ball on a regular basis. Hammer, don't mean to be so miserable at all still. Just hate what a wasted opportunity this season is. It's early. You're 8 games in. This is what we got to remind ourselves. If we were 18 games in and we were doing what we were doing, I'd be as worried as you are. I'm not suggesting for a minute, I'm not rose tinting it and all that sort of stuff, but let's not forget that it's only 8 games in. There's a lot of football to be played yet. If we're in this position by Christmas, I'll be with you. Matt, there's no place in midfield. There's no pace in midfield. That's why we're losing games. Don't disagree with that, actually, to be quite honest with you. Mr. Forges, how are you? Hope you I had a great holiday, mate. Absolutely wonderful. And thank you for reminding me that I wanted Brendan, what's his name, to be our manager a few years ago. I did say it, though. Dougie, good evening, mate. How are you? I hope you're well. Andrew, Souček is great for trying to nick a goal, but he's not good enough to play in a technical, progressive midfield. His passing stats are abysmal. Don't disagree. Sam, recalled Ward-Prowse from Forest. Our corners are crap. Do you know what? I'd rather see more of Soler, than bringing Ward-Prowse. He's not exactly putting up any trees at Forest, to be quite honest with you. Montana, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. 5 a.m. here in the Far East. I hope you're doing well, mate. Thank you for joining. Kevin, Sully is sucking the life out of this club. Brownie, Stella, you doing March? As I want to buy one of Wiggy's Hawaiian shirts. Oh, am I doing merch as I want to buy one of Wiggy's Hawaiian? Imagine selling Wiggy's. Oh, you can be an idea. No, I'm not. I might do though. Trini, at the ground, there are no replays. Trust me, he should have been red carded too. But we all believe the nonsense about our own players. No, look, he initiated the fight. I won't disagree. Doogie, Kera and Agurd could have played as a central defensive midfield. Our midfield is non-existent. We don't have players who can read a game. I think there's more to the point that was made a moment ago, is we don't have players who have got pace in midfield. That's the problem. Montana, Hammerette, I feel for the folks in Oz. They're committed to watching our crap. Loppy better figure it out soon. Dick Turpin, most of the new players have no honour towards the club. It's just a paycheck. Tell me what footballers in this day and age have honour towards a club. Very, very few. Green Street, Greg, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Loppy going nowhere. We're at. Where are all the people saying happy with mid-table development year? Too much invested. Funny world beaters. Then we beat Ipswich. 15 minutes of madness. Sack them all. Well, here's the interesting thing. You made a point here, Greg. What if we finish mediocre mid-table this season? Because a lot of fans said Moyes out, happy to finish mid-table this season. So Moyes is gone. If we finish mid-table this season, is that all right? Brownie, because there's no reserves these days, going out on loan in the next step up is the under-21s. So it's natural progression in the modern day. Yeah, going out on loan is a natural progression. But what he did was he sent all our really decent young players out on loan. Lee, it's violent intent from the Spurs player. What's a man supposed to do? We all keep saying football is a business. In what business can you put your hands on people? See you later. Too many flip-flops. Good point. Yeah. If VAR had done its job, they would have seen that wherever his name is, should probably have got sending off as well. Chrissy, first half, our movement was good. There's nothing wrong with our approach. It's the middle. It's a donut in transition. Right. Let's go on to, because I need a drink of water. Let's go on to doing a very brief review, shall we? And then we talk about where we go with Lopetegui. So, what do we start with? Well, look, I want to ask you a couple of questions first, and what I want you to do is give me a response on what happens. And we've had a few of them already, but I want to ask you a couple of questions. Now, I can tell you what I think went wrong in the game, but I want to know from you guys, what do you believe went wrong? Was it tactics? Was it team selection? Was it individuals not playing well, etc.? Was it a combination of all? And I want you to also tell me, does Lopetegui deserve more time? And if yes, what in your mind does he have to do to change things? It's a lot of things I'm asking you. And if no, then who is a realistic replacement? We've already had some suggestions, but who is a realistic replacement? So whilst you're thinking about that and writing down your comments, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on the game. And they're only my thoughts. In the first half, now here's the interesting thing. When I did the post-match reflection on Sunday, I said that I thought we did okay in the first half. I didn't say we were brilliant. I didn't say we were deserving to be winning or anything like that, but I thought we did okay. Spurs came out, they went for us. They attacked us right from the start. They had a lot of possession of the ball. They had a lot of chances. There was an awful lot of defending to do. But I thought we defended resolutely. And interestingly, I thought that when we got the ball, for the few times that we did get the ball and we were on the break, I thought we made good use of our attacks. Now, Kudus, ironically, could have had a goal before his goal. It pulled up the Spurs goalie pulled off a fantastic save to keep the game at 0-0. And then soon after that, when we got the ball again, we made use of it and Kudus scored our opening goal. And in a roundabout sort of way, even though Spurs were on the attack quite a lot, I actually think we were a little bit unlucky for it to go 1-1. Because mainly because of the way that the goal was scored, where it hit one post, it trickled across and hit the other post and went in. But even that at half time was talking to people around me, and we were talking about the game. We were quite happy-ish. It was 1-1. We felt that we were in it. Yes, we were under the cosh, but we were defending well. We were doing quite well. There were certain parts of the game which weren't great. Ariola's distribution of the ball was pretty awful. One of them that came straight to us, which was weird. Don't know who he was passing it to. And losing the ball, as much as Spurs were putting us under pressure, we were putting ourselves under pressure by giving the ball away quite regularly. But we got away with it. There was 2 or 3 shots that Spurs had in the first half which went past the post. A lot of them from the angle that we were at, we thought, oh, that's going in. And we were quite pleased in a way that at half time it was 1-1. And I think we were kind of like quietly confident that we were doing okay. Yes, we were doing a lot of defending. Yes, Spurs were really bringing the game to us, but we were coping. I don't think any of us would have seen what happened in the second half because we completely. I mean, what was interesting was there was a tactical switch, and the tactical switch by Postecoglou was that he took Maddison off and he brought on Paqueta in the middle of the park, who completely changed the game for Spurs. I mean, we were already under the cosh, absolutely, in the first half, but then we had Paqueta. I mean, the goal that the pass that he sent out to Son for their 4th goal was a great pass. It split our defense open, and Son was up against an absolutely knackered Todibo to put them 4-1 up. The 3rd goal, I mean, it was just an awful own goal that happened. It could happen to anyone. Their 2nd goal also tore us apart. So of the 4 goals, 2 of their goals kind of tore our defense apart. Their 2nd goal and their 4th goal. But at half time, I think as a fan base, we were kind of like, yes, we're playing away from home. You expect Spurs to be going at us. You expect Spurs to be creating chances, etc. But we were coping. And no one could foresee the second half that we had. It was awful. I thought it was 15 minutes. Apparently, it was only 8 minutes of madness that saw us concede 3 goals. And for me, Angela asked it earlier on. At 2-1, we had 3 subs ready to come on. And we had opportunities. I mean, I was standing next to Angela at the time and we were going, well, bring him on now. And then it was like, oh, no, you ain't going to bring him on. Oh, it's 3-1. Bring him on now. Oh, it's 4-1. Oh, now he's bringing the subs on. At 2-1, why not make those changes? You've got the players ready. Why not make those changes? We were kind of confused as to why it took Lopetegui so long to make changes. Whereas Postecoglou saw what he needed to change and he did it, instinctive. Half time, he made the change he needed and that affected the game. And we should have done the same. What I was actually really surprised at was that the same team came out in the second half. Let's not forget, we had a number of players on international duty who were flying halfway around the world, and we knew that 1 or 2 of them were going to be knackered. Antonio, absolutely one of them. Ironically, Antonio was getting a lot of stick from the area I was standing in the first half because he just wasn't running around. He had no energy, So how he managed to keep his place coming on in the second half surprised quite a few of us. Paqueta didn't have a good first half. How he came out in order to play in the second half as well was a surprise as well. We needed just some fresh legs in order for them to worry about something, but we didn't do it. And we got punished for it. Postecoglou tactically made the change that won him the game. And that was the disappointing thing about Lopetegui. We've seen him in previous games where he's not been afraid to bring players off, if he doesn't think that they're doing well, or if he thinks that we needed freshening up. And we've got players like Somerville on the bench. Soler, who I think is actually beginning to look like a half-decent player on the bench. We've got the players on the bench now that can affect the game, that can make a difference. So it's kind of surprised me why we didn't bring some fresh legs on in the second half. And it surprised me even more that it took for them to score 3 goals before we made any substitutions at all. So I think tactically, Lopetegui was poor. But then I sort of start looking at the kind of players we've got in the team, and is it suiting us? Well, what Lopetegui, and this was an interesting thing, and I'll give credit to Wiggy, who said this in the post-match review straight after the game on Saturday, where he said what Lopetegui's trying to do is to play a style of football that isn't effective in the Premier League, or we don't have the players to affect the style of football that he wants. Lopetegui likes the possession-based. Look, we're asking ourselves, well, what's changed since Moyes? Well, some things have changed since Moyes. But as I said earlier in the show, we're not seeing enough of it at the moment. And one of the things that's changed is we do have more possession of the ball. Ironically, we are creating more chances. We're just not putting them away like we did last season. But we have got more possession of the ball. Lopetegui likes possession-based football. He's trying to get the team to play possession-based football. But then that comes into question about the players that he's got. One thing people have mentioned, we don't have enough pace in midfield. So if you have the ball and you're playing possession-based, when you lose it, you need players to get back into position pretty quickly. And we're not got that with Rodriguez, and I agree with Souček. We just don't have that pace in the centre of the park. And that's where we are losing the game, quite a lot of games at the moment, because Paqueta's in there. When he loses the ball, all of a sudden we're under the cosh. As people have mentioned, and I've mentioned in previous shows, we've got our fullbacks are so far forward that there's just no way they're going to be able to get back into position in order to help our centre backs out. Our centre backs are then exposed because we've got a slow central midfield, and that means we've got our centre backs exposed. And how many times have we seen, especially in games against the bigger teams, where we've been exposed quite a few times? Against Liverpool, it happened. Against Chelsea, it happened. Against Man City, maybe. They're an exception to the rule because they're so good. But certainly against Liverpool, certainly against Chelsea, and then against Spurs at the weekend, we saw similar kind of plays come up where we lose the ball. All of a sudden, we've got 2-3 players against our 2 centre-backs. So for me, that tactic has got to change. And I just wonder whether Lopetegui sticking with a, whatever it may be, a 4-1-4-1, a 4-3-3, whichever it is, it's just not working. And I wonder whether we need to completely change the way we play in order to get the best out of our own players. Now, you may or you may not agree with me, but I think we should go with a 3 at the back. I think with the players that we've got, potentially we should go for a 3 at the back. So we have Mavropanos, Todibo, and Kilman. So if we lose the ball and we've got Emerson and Wan-Bissaka so far forward, then we've got 3 defenders to protect that back line rather than the 2. And then you can do what you want in midfield. For me, I want to start seeing more of Alvarez. I don't know why Alvarez is not being picked in the starting lineup, and I want to see more of Soler. And then I've got Souček, Somerville, and Bowen in the middle. You could have it slightly different. So that, to me, that's a 3-5-2 formation. You could play a 3-4-3. Sorry. Where maybe you have Souček a little bit deeper, Soler a little bit further forward, and Somerville supporting Bowen. Now, the reason why I don't have Somerville or Bowen out wide is because you've got your width, you've got Wan-Bissaka, and you've got Emerson with your width. And again, if you lose that ball in midfield, then you've got your 3 at the back. I'm dropping Paqueta. I'm dropping Antonio as well. Even though Kudus is suspended for 3 games, maybe even 6, I would still, without Kudus, we've got the squad now. I want to see more of Soler. I want to see more of Alvarez. Some of you may argue and go, well, I'd rather have Irving rather than Souček. I'll take that. Others might say, I'd rather have Paqueta rather than Souček. Fine, whatever it may be. What my point is changing the formation to a 3 at the back, which I think possibly could work better for us. All right, if you want to go with a 4-1-4-1, then change the players. Again, I'm dropping the likes of Paqueta and Antonio. I'm still putting Bone up front. Now, I'm making a slight change, and I know a lot of you may not agree with it, but look how good Mavropanos played when he came on as right back. Who was it against? Was it against Ipswich? I can't remember now. And he looked quite comfortable there. So I'm pushing Wan-Bissaka to play a wide role. And Somerville on the left. And then you got Alvarez, Soucek, Soler in the middle with Bone up front. So I'm beginning to think now that maybe our formation is telling. Now, people have said we don't have pace in the middle of the park. So if you put the likes of Alvarez in there, or you put Alvarez with Soler alongside him, maybe that will give you a little bit more strength in that midfield area and provide more protection for your centre backs going forward. I don't know. For me, it clearly, whatever it is, it's a 4-1-4-1, a 4-3-3. It's not working at the moment, so maybe going with a three at the back, a 5-3-2, 3-5-2 formation could be the way forward. You tell me. That's all I was going to say about Spurs. See how little I talked about it, because even I don't want to be reminded of it. Montana. I have a feeling Tim will have enough and walk out. Such a crap show. I don't know why he would, unless he doesn't want to be associated with a failed team that he has helped to build. I don't think he can be exonerated from the things that are going wrong at the moment. Excuse me. Kudus wants to travel with the ball. Chrissy, though he can play with his back to goal, it's a different game up front. Turning players in the middle is easier than holding ball with a 6'4" unit behind you. Yeah, that's fair play. Good night to you, Black Country. Thanks for joining. Much appreciated. Let's scroll down. Mark. Why did we bring Soler on loan only for him to be on the bench? He's clearly fit and raring to go. He's technically gifted and fits Loppy's style of play. Don't get why Loppy chooses Soucek over him. Yep, just showed you. I put Soler in the team. Trini, Ward-Prowse has done even less at Forest than he did here. Yep, which is why I think Soler should be given his chance rather than going to look for bringing Ward-Prowse back. Montana, even when we took the lead, it had a feeling of a pasting. Well, it sure did. Stel, have you told Wiggy that them shirts went out in the 70s? He knows they did. That's why he buys them. Hayden, keep doing what we're doing and we'll be 18 games in with no results. Where can we see the change coming from? I cannot see Lopetegui doing anything differently. We're in quicksand now. Mandy, our midfield players are international players. They're not being used properly. Why Paqueta lost the ball? Soucek was 20 yards in their half. Because that's what you expect from Soucek. You expect him to be further forward. Ian, Stel just read Jeff Pike has been diagnosed with Parkinson's. Our condolences to him. Wish him really well. Horrible disease to have. Montana, Stel, please explain how Sully can pay top dollar for signings yet be so reluctant to play for a top manager. It makes no sense. I don't know what to say to you. Maybe the managers that we wanted weren't available. Amorim, apparently he wanted £10 million and he didn't want to work alongside a technical director. We don't know. I mean, with the greatest of respect, we don't know if he would have succeeded at £10 million, to be honest. I don't know if Lopetegui's that cheap. Probably cheaper, but he's still not, I bet he's on still a pretty good wage packet. Melissa, long season, it was the defense. Now it's the midfield. Trini, mid-table finish would be good. That's after all our level. I feel too many actually believe we're a top 6 club when we're clearly not. I agree with you there. I think we've been carried away sometimes. Jerry, evening all. With all the money spent and we don't have a striker of notability, what's Ings done wrong? That's a good shout. Why not give Ings an opportunity? He'll be very different to what Antonio offers. Ian, sorry, Stel, Lopetegui out. Our midfield is too far apart. So would a 3-5-2 be better then, as I've just suggested? I don't like Potter. I don't think we'll be any better to be honest with you. I really don't. But he might be the sort of manager that we might bring in if we do get rid of. How come Potter has not got a job yet? He's been out of a job for quite some time now. Can't say there's been no shortage of jobs available in the Premier League. Andrew, Fergie's first season at Man United was 11th. He only really got going full throttle with Cantona. As for our squad, there's just a weak engine in midfield. Let's scroll down. Old man, Loppy was responsible for Areola, crap distribution. That set the trend after we scored. His distribution, his goalkeeping prowess has really changed quite a bit. Michael, 6 points from the next 3 games would help. It certainly would. Toha saying good evening to Budgie. Where are you? Clive, are you in the chat somewhere? Mandy, if you have a slow midfield, you kept them tight as a unit. Noble never had pace. Good point. Yeah, agree with that. Montana, no Stel, he has to go. I wanted Fonseca. Why didn't Sully go for him? I don't know. He's not doing too well at AC Milan at the moment, is he? But good comment. Mark, realistic replacement for me would be Turcic, who I've mentioned before, or someone like the Frankfurt manager. Yeah, I like Turcic. He'd be the one I'd go for, to be honest with you. David, you need a new ground manager, new owners, and new players, and a new stadium, and a new everything. Anthony, if fans give him time and you still, then tell me what you have seen so far to give him more time. Like I said, we definitely have more possession-based football. There's no doubt about that. The stats show that is evident. What we do with possession, I've always said, I'd rather have 5% possession and score goals rather than 50% possession and do nothing with it. But we certainly have more possession-based football. That's no denying that. We're trying to pass it. And probably like the comment I made earlier about what Wiggy said about, maybe our style of football is not suiting the players that we have at the moment. Maybe we should be a bit more one-directional. I don't know. Obsidian, sack him now. No improvement. We're looking worse, actually. There's no evidence of even a hint he can turn this round. Leaving it to Christmas is complete madness. Trini, players need to take a long, hard look at themselves. They should at least give 100% every game. Lopetegui needs more time. This is not FIFA or Football Manager. Mark, I think Areola has regressed slightly, gotten a bit worse recently with his distribution and box commanding. I agree with that. Andrew, it was like watching a Premier League team against a championship side. 12 corners in the first half. It was inevitable we capitulate. In the second half, we were easy to play against. Yeah. Areola, oh my God, he is colorblind because of passing to them. Michael, great show. Thank you. If you are new to the channel, please do consider becoming a subscriber. If you are new or an existing subscriber, please hit that like button. Who else have we got? Chrissy, there's more going on in them contracts. There has to be. He's a pro manager. He has to see we have no speed in the middle. Every fan and pundit is saying so. Peter, when it comes to changing managers, the 2 biggest factors are: do you believe that Lopetegui can turn things around, and do you already have someone in mind as a replacement? I know people are saying don't give him more time, but I think maybe after 8 games, it's not enough time to say. So yes, a little bit more time. And for me, Turgic would be my choice. Good evening, Clive. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening to you, Schizo. How are you? Even without Madison's substitution, I thought we'd sub Pac-Man. Did it way too late. We did. He should have been taken off far sooner. Montana. The player's body language looks exactly like last season's second half. Couldn't be asked. How the board cannot see this makes no sense. Kevin, he has lost the players. He doesn't know his best team. He gets out terrible, same old West Ham Spurs manager. Start again. He has lost the players. He doesn't know his best team. Get him out. Terrible, same old West Ham Spurs manager outthought us. What a shambles. Jerry, we don't have the skill set. We've signed too many players that are like one another. No pace or commitment and no idea. 12 corners says it all in the first half. Defense versus attack. Lopetegui out. Victor. Problem midfield. No pace. Kudus needs to play in his natural position of 10, where a lot of the play will go through him. He can make things happen. I agree. But as I've already mentioned, he's playing number 10 for Ghana, and he's been quite poor in that position as well. Has he got better players around him at West Ham? I guess he must have. Peter, when it comes to changing managers, there are two key factors. Do you believe I've done that one? My apologies for repeating it. Montana. Man City are looking at Amorim to replace Pep if he goes, yet we dithered paying off his contract. Man City can afford to pay off his contract and 10 million a year, which is probably what he'll get. Victor, the fact that Loppe has made lots of changes in the game tells me he keeps getting it wrong. Interesting point. I think some games, he made changes in some games where we actually got back into the game. We didn't get back into the game on Saturday, but he made those changes too late. Anthony, why not play 4-4-2 with Bone alongside Ings up front? Because I think we'd be even more exposed in the middle there, to be really honest with you, which is why I suggested filling that midfield and having a 3 at the back. Martin, Loppe has plenty of time to get the players in to suit his style of play. So why didn't he get the right players in for his style of football? Goes back to the point I made at the beginning of the show. Was there a discourse between Steidten and Lopetegui? My understanding was that they had conversations about what do we need? I need a right back. I need a midfielder. I need a whatever, centre back, and so on and so forth. So Steidten was tasked to go out and get a right back, a midfielder, whatever. And my understanding again is the conversations that were had is this is the style of player I want. Now we know Lopetegui, for example, likes his fullbacks to maraud forward. And we know that Wan-Bissaka kind of does that. He's a bit more of at Man United, he was considered to be a bit more of a defensive-minded right back rather than the sort of marauding forward. But a lot of the clips that you see when he was at Man United saw him marauding forward. So hence, Steidten went out to get the players that Lopetegui said he needed. So he had a say in who was coming in, and he could have turned around and said no to certain players. I don't know. Was it all wrong there? Greg, 3-4-3, need to embrace the Bone is our best striker. No one else gets 20 a season. Wing back Somerville, Bowen, Kudus up front, Alvarez, Paqueta, Soler, Mavropanos, Kilman, Todibo. Yep. Montana. Alvarez was a sure starter, even for a stubborn dinosaur, yet the Spanish fraud thinks Souček and Guido are better than him. Don't know what's going on there. I really don't. That is quite confusing. How far behind am I? Not far. Jerry, more possession in our own half, sideways and backwards. Look at the league table. Doesn't lie. I did say that, the stats tell you what's changed. What's changed is we've got more possession of the ball. But I did qualify that by saying I'd rather have 5% possession of the ball and scoring more goals than 50% and not scoring any. Usual. Toho Howard Fresher every Wednesday night. Stick ones out. I don't know what that is, but enjoy. Trini, Wan-Bissaka does not thrive as a wing back. He is one of our best right backs in the Premier League. Fair play. Daniel, let's get a comment up. Lopetegui should give Somerville his place on a regular basis. Irvin and Guilherme need to be given a chance too. They're both better than Souček and Rodriguez, in my opinion. Yeah, good shout. Don't disagree with that. We're banging trouble without Kudus. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see what Lopetegui does without Kudus, how he's going to, I'm guessing automatically he's going to bring Somerville to play out on that left-hand side. Somerville now has got an opportunity to have a run of games to show what he's capable of doing. It might work. It might work. Andrew, Soler has played 20 minutes of Premier League football and has already accumulated 3 yellow cards. I've been underwhelmed from what I'm seeing so far. One of them was unlucky, I think, in the last game. But yeah, good point. Daniel, good team style. 3 at the back would strengthen the defense without a doubt. Agree with a 3-4-3. Victor, Loppe has a week now to prepare for Man United to play on Thursday. If he can't get it right on Sunday, he never will. James, now that Kudus is out for a while, we now get to see a little more of the squad, which is pretty damn good attacking wise. For me, yeah, I want to see more of Somerville. Montana, Loppy is a fraud and is proving that he's walked away from Wolves for no good reason. Billy Bob, I'd rather have a proper forward playing, but our forwards aren't doing it, which is the problem for me. I don't trust in Antonio. For whatever reason, Ings is not getting an opportunity. Fullkrug is out injured. So for me, go back to what worked last season up front, and that is put Bone up there. Michael, great shout, Stel. Play Irving instead of slow check. Daniela, I put Chrissy James in time by mistake. Mouse issue, can put them back. Oh, right. Sorry, Chrissy. It was a mistake. Daniela zoned up to it. Montana. Stel, would you take Glasner or Gary O'Neill? Why would you? I mean, I'm being honest. O'Neill was struggling with Wolves. Glasner is struggling with Crystal Palace. They're both down the bottom of the league. Why would you bring in a manager that is managing a current Premier League team who are struggling? You can't say that Palace don't have a decent team. We were jealous of what Palace were bringing in. They've got some very decent players, Crystal Palace. They've got a lot of pace in their squad. Gary O'Neill, we were praising him last season for him doing really well, but he's not doing really well this season. No is the answer, to be honest, mate. Clive, I think Soler will be good in a minute. I think Soler will be so good in a minute that we will have no choice but to offer him a permanent deal. Anthony, Alvarez brought West Ham into disrepute for fighting in the last game for Mexico. That's probably why he hasn't been picked. Did he fight? I didn't know that. Colin, still, we did okay until half time. I don't know what happened in the dressing room. Then in the second half, how midfield went to pieces, getting overrun. Believe Lopetegui is trying too many things in one go too soon. Interesting point. Maybe he's trying to change it too much. And maybe when he talks about my translation, maybe it's the translation on he's changing too many things too quickly. Good point. Montana, Stel. Tim wanted to get way better managers, yet got overruled. Soler should start over Paqueta. Does he always have to start? What is wrong with the Spanish dinosaur? I agree. I think Soler should start. And I think, ironically, I think I said this at the beginning of the season. I think Soler was brought in to shadow Paqueta and then take over, given that we may lose Paqueta depending on what happens with his hearings. Tim wanted better managers. At the same time, as I keep saying, Steidten, yes, he brought Amorim to be interviewed, but it was also Steidten who brought Lopetegui to be interviewed. It wasn't Sullivan telling Steidten, go and get me Lopetegui. It was Steidten who brought Lopetegui to the club to be interviewed. So he had a role in Lopetegui being recruited. If Steidten didn't think that Lopetegui was up to it, he wouldn't have been recommended. Let's not forget that. We can't say on one hand, we didn't listen to Steidten because he didn't take Amorim, and then say on the other hand, Sullivan did what he wanted and brought Lopetegui in. It was Steidten who brought Lopetegui to West Ham to be interviewed in the same way as it was Steidten who brought Amorim in. Trini, we will get 6 points from our possible next nine. I don't expect points from the so-called top six, as there are bonus points. And here's the interesting thing. You've reminded me, Trini. One of the things that I will say about that I think is not going well is that a manager, a coach like Lopetegui has been brought in not to just get points from the teams around us or the teams below us, but also to compete with the teams that are aiming for European football, the likes of Spurs and Arsenal, etc. I'm actually, there will be absolutely no change if we concede that we're not going to get any points from the top six clubs. We could have just kept Moyes for that, couldn't we? Ray, hypnotise Irving and kid him that the opposition are the daggers. Mandy, Potter had Brighton organised. No. Potter, it doesn't matter. Look at what Brighton have done. Think for a minute. They've got a system. They've got a mechanism in place, Mandy. Almost doesn't matter what manager you have in. There's a system there. All the coaches have to do is just keep that churning over. They've not fallen away since Potter has left. In fact, they've improved since Potter has left. So that's why I don't think Potter is right for West Ham. I don't think I think we've become a mediocre mid-table team under Potter, to be honest with you. Fat Git, great show. Best opinions always measured, never hysterical like some West Ham channels. Thank you. I can't. If I get hysterical, I'll have a bloody heart attack on screen. That wouldn't be very pleasant. Andrew, Bournemouth look a better team than us right now. I'd be surprised if we finish anywhere near the top 10 this season. There's the question I asked again. What was it last season we were saying? Moyes out. I don't care if we finish mid-table this season. Moyes is gone. And if we finish mid-table or just a bit lower, are we going to complain? Because a lot of fans said, I want Moyes gone. I want Moyes gone. And I don't care if we finish just above. Some fans said, I don't care if we finish just above relegation zone. We might just finish just above the relegation. I don't think it'll be that bad, to be really honest with you. But we're certainly not going to be hitting European football next season. Usual. Potter got a £14 million payoff. He must have said bollocks to another job for the moment, wouldn't you? Stylish. They're backing him. Get him gone before it gets worse. Probably if United beat us at home. Andrew. I think Thomas Frank would possibly be interested in taking the job, but he doesn't play too much in the way of free-flowing football. Another pragmatic manager. I don't know. I quite like Thomas Frank. We talked about him earlier in the show. Someone said, what about Thomas Frank? I'd take him. I'll take him. Trini, Areola is from the era of keepers being keepers. He is not a footballing keeper. Good shot stopper, I guess is what you mean. Glenn, Tim is really... Tim is that really hot girl abroad enticing you into that dodgy nightclub? UFC. Edin Terzic, bring him in. He loves West Ham, knows Noble, knows the fans. Said it earlier. Yeah, I'd have him. Stylish. Sullivan should have gone. Should have had the gamble with Amorim. It's his fault. He went for the cheaper option. That's what we're hearing because that's what we're being told. I said much earlier in the show. I talked about Amorim quite a bit. My understanding is that Amorim certainly didn't get on with Sullivan. They didn't hit it off. And we also know that I didn't add earlier on. We also know that Sullivan won't gamble on a manager that hasn't had Premier League experience. I think that's wrong, but that's Sullivan's choice. And my understanding also is Amorim didn't want to work alongside a technical director. Anthony, surely if it's going wrong on the pitch, why can't the players get organised, change things regardless of what Lopetegui says? You see him on the touchline. He is shouting at them, telling them to do what he wants them to do. And he keeps saying, the interpreter, maybe they're not understanding what I'm asking them to do. Dick, my wife said, why are you crap? Bless her, always right. Me? Am I crap? Oh, you mean West Ham? Well, yeah. Not always crap. Trini, Ghana have been quite poor. They did not qualify for AFCON. No, they might not qualify for AFCON, but it looks quite likely that they may not qualify. We need Sully to swallow his pride, except he has likely made a mistake with this appointment if we see no improvement very soon. I'm giving it, I did say till the end of October. I've changed my mind. I'm giving it to the end of this calendar year. Mark, at least we might get to see more of Guilherme from the bench. Now Kudus is gone for the next 3 games. Good shout. Trini, all managers make changes during the game, but they've got to make the right changes. And that's exactly what Postecoglou did at the weekend. Andrew, apparently we have a chunk of money to spend in January. Do we give this to Loppy? Well, it'll be depending on where we're at this by the time the January window opens. Colin, Stell been a great show. Cannot give him too much time. If you want me to give time, say the next 3 games, Man United, Forest, Everton, no more. Fair play, Colin. Appreciate you being on and being part of the show as well. Last season, I would have taken Glasner from Palace, Lee. Now look at him. Exactly. Now, who's to say Who's to say that it won't turn around for Lopetegui? It's been shit so far. Who's to say by Christmas we might not? We might actually be doing really well and might finally get it all right, get it all buzzing, and we won't be talking about this in by Christmas. Don't know, do you? Andrew, Fullkrug has been unmitigated disaster. Does not look good on Steidten at all. I agree with that. If he doesn't come back and knock in a dozen goals in the time that he might have with us, then I agree. Trodge, the logic is if he goes Bournemouth, he was in. The logic is if he goes Bournemouth, he was interested in coming to the Premier League, and if he went there, he probably would also come to us. Who, mate? Are you talking about the Bournemouth manager or someone else? Montana. Come on, Stel. Brighton hired a manager from the Bundesliga. Look how impressive they are. They look. We need new ideas. The same old Premier experience. Mate, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying 1 minute that Brighton haven't got it right. They've got it absolutely right. But when I was told, when I think it was Mandy who said, "Oh, we should get what's his name in Potter in," I said, "No, not Potter, because it's the system at Brighton, so you get a half decent coach. Yeah, you got a good infrastructure in there, and you get a coach in who is either going to keep that going or improve it. So I don't think that's why I don't think Potter is right for us. I don't think he'll necessarily improve much. Will become mediocre, but absolutely Brighton have got it right. They've got an infrastructure there, and they do, they do go for good managers, for good head coaches. Absolutely. Andrew, it was Olise who made them tick. He was an excellent player. Michael, great show. Good night to you, and thank you for getting involved. Much appreciated. Gavin, Paqueta should be shown the exit door. Rarely assists, rarely scores. Waste of money. Not disagreeing with that. We talked about him a lot earlier on. How far behind am I? Nearly there. Clive, did anyone else notice that even at 3-1, the ref was still looking to give Spurs an advantage? At that point, I don't think anyone really cared. Hammerette, put an arm around Paqueta, let him have a couple of games off to get his head straight after Kudus returns. I would drop him. I would take him out of the limelight. Andrew, still, I would be happy to finish outside top 10 as long as we can see progression. And currently, I'm seeing regression. Hamrit, if Steidten is not being given control, he has been told, expecting, then we can't blame him for walking out on us. I disagree. I think Steidten has been given control. I think I mentioned that earlier on in the show. Trini, Amorim did not work with a technical director. What's hard to understand? Exactly. Lee, mind you, still, Gary O'Neill and Wolves got unlucky against Man City. That goal. West Ham never gives City a close game like Wolves did. That's fair play. Good shout. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Catherine, good evening to you. Good. A pod where there isn't screaming panic. Thank you for joining, Catherine. There's always, I always try and be a voice of reason. What am I dreaming on about? You need to explain to me what I'm dreaming on about. Danny Base. How many signings this season are loans and can go back? Can only have 2 loan signings, can't we? So it is Soler and, come on, Stel. Who else is on loan? Damn it. And someone else. I think there's 2. I'm sure we've got 2. Oh, no. At the moment, Todibo is on loan. He's on loan to buy, isn't he? So it's Todibo and Soler who are on loan. Hamrit, need to try to grasp any faith we have left, guys. We're not fortune tellers. Who knows what delight Sloppy has in store for us against the Manx? Think about it. What did we say earlier about the manager Glasner of Crystal Palace? Oh, we should have got Glasner last season. Look how great he was. It's a really good point. Glasner did great last season. Everyone was like, spitting feathers. Why didn't we get Glasner? Why didn't we get Glasner? Glasner's doing absolutely awful now at Crystal Palace. And let's not forget, after Eintracht Frankfurt, he left there under a dark cloud at Eintracht Frankfurt as well. And now he's not doing well. It could be that Lopetegui, once he goes through this transition period, he might turn things around. Or, we might find ourselves going 4, 5, 6 games in a row of not getting beaten, drawing a few games, winning a few games, and all of a sudden we're climbing up the table. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's very possible. As much as a manager can take a team, look good, and then go crap, you can look crap and get better as well. It does work both ways. Trudge. Todibo got to play 5 games or exactly. And I think he's done that now. So he will become permanent, but we don't have to pay for that signing until the end of the season. Montana. So, Stel, I guess we should get the Brighton owner then. Yes, I guess we should. And you're saying that half in jest, but I'm not. James, just remembered you're on. Areola was exposed in the Spurs game, an absolute useless and Yep. Thank you for coming on, James. And absolutely, we talked about that. Areola has regressed. He was awful in that game. It was one of his poorest games for West Ham United, to be honest with you. And the distribution was pretty poor. Toha, I had you down as a Gypsy Rose at the weekend. I'm disappointed with this revelation. You're not talking to me, are you? Harry, that Tottenham Stadium is beautiful. Look, you may be I don't know if you're a Spurs supporter or not, but I will agree. That's Tottenham Stadium is really nice. Let me just wash my mouth out. It is really nice. Infamy, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I needed something to keep me alert during slow work days. Welcome, mate. Apparently, I bumped into quite a few people who watched the show at the game at the weekend, and most of them went, "Oh, I like your show. Puts me to sleep." And I'm like, "What?" So I'm going to start charging for those insomniacs that watching. I'm going to start charging you a fee for putting you to sleep. Audi, long time. How are you? Don't think Lopetegui can do much more with slow team other than low block. I despair. I hope you're well. I haven't seen you for a while. Who else have we got? All right. You've made your point. You're a Spurs fan. You're welcome here. All fans from other clubs are welcome here, so long as you keep it, respectful. You're more than welcome here. You made your point. See, Spurs fan. Audi. Why do we purchase so many legless players in midfield? Lopetegui has watched us for months before signing. Listen, I wish I had the answer. Now we've got a technical director come in that's meant to be in charge of signing players, and yet not so sure that we've done so well in central midfield. Andrew, great. Thank you very much, mate. And thank you for commenting. Much appreciated. Thankfully, there's still 30 more matches for the season. Exactly, Infamy. Exactly. There's still a long way to go. Excuse me. Hammer it. No matter how crude we are, make sure you give this. Thank you very much, Hammer it. Do give it a like. Do subscribe if you've yet to become a subscriber. Kevin. No, Stel. Sheldon did not want Loppy. Who's Sheldon? You mean Steidten? Did not want. That's what people honestly, I'll say it again. Think of it logically. Steidten was tasked to go out and get a new head coach. He introduced Amorim. He also introduced Lopetegui. If Steidten didn't want Lopetegui, he wouldn't have introduced him to the club. Okay, the final choice, yes, was down to the board, but it was Steidten who brought Lopetegui to West Ham. So when people are telling you that Steidten didn't want Lopetegui, I dispute that because it was Steidten who was tasked to bring in a new head coach. Yes, maybe the final decision was down to the board. Okay, they pay the wages. But if Steidten didn't want Lopetegui, then why did he introduce them to him? The club to Lopetegui. Navadius, good evening to you. Got to say, you're most sensible West Ham YouTuber. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Have you subscribed, Navadius? You better do after that comment. Appreciated, mate. Thank you. Martin, from the air, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium looks like a toilet seat, hence why it's called the toilet bowl. I won't lie. I'm a bit jealous. It is a nice stadium. Trini, Stel show is so much more adult. Thank you very much. Well, I'm old. I've got to be adult about it. Thank you, Gary. Much appreciated. Good night to you, Gary, as well. Thank you. Marvelous. Well done, Navadius. Thank you. I hope I pronounced your name correctly because I don't pronounce names very well. infamy. I'd be surprised if Somerville doesn't get a start next match while Kudus is out. If he does get the start against Man United, I hope he seizes it with the opportunity and impresses likewise. He's got to start, hasn't he? He's got to start. Moyes in. That's it. I'm done. We've done 20 seconds away from exactly 2 hours. Thank you all. Really much appreciated. It's been an interesting show. Loved all the comments. Thank you all very much. I'll be back. There'll be. I'm going to look at a few of these issues in a little bit more depth, and I'm going to try and sort of do a quick 10-minute show on 1 or 2 issues, a bit like about Paqueta, Kudus, and maybe 1 or 2 other things. So thank you all for joining in. Really appreciated. Love these Monday nights because you guys get involved. So thank you. Do subscribe if you've yet to subscribe. Thank you very much. Do hit that like button as well. And I will see you soon. And look, come on, people. It's going to be all right. It's only Man United this weekend. You know, we'll beat them, won't we?